Mufasa the Lion King is meant to be a prequel origin story to Mufasa and serves as a prequel to the 2019 CGI adaptation of The Lion King. Can't really say live action because it's not. It's just all CGI. Yeah, as you might have guessed, it tells the story of Mufasa, what his life was like when he was a cub, how he and Scar became brothers, how he ascended to become this King of Pride Rock, what ultimately led to Scar and Mufasa being brothers and ultimately drifting apart to the point where it became what it was in The Lion King. All being told in like a flashback story form by Rafiki, Timon, and Pumbaa to Nala. Yeah, that's the movie. Mufasa is easily one of the greatest characters of all time. We all love Mufasa in The Lion King. We all loved James Earl Jones as Mufasa. And while I don't feel like this is a movie that all of us have been like emphatically looking forward to, I mean, the story of Mufasa is not something that I think people out there have been banging on the table for necessarily. I do feel like in light of the passing of James Earl Jones, this is a movie we all deep down were pulling for. When James Earl Jones died, the character of Mufasa is now officially gone, and because of that, we would like to see a movie that honors in a hand James Earl Jones' legacy and the Mufasa character in one movie together. To start off what's good in this movie, okay, the animation-wise, the CGI, I mean, it all looks really good. And where I give this movie credit is I feel like they stepped it up a little bit more from the 2019 Lion King. Because in the 2019 Lion King, the complaint was they made the animals almost feel a little too real. You don't see emotion in their face. You don't really feel emotion when they're supposed to be emotional. So when really heartbreaking or sad stuff that happened in the animated Lion King happened in the 2019 Lion King, it didn't feel as effective. In this movie though, you actually feel the animals portray a little bit more emotion. You know, when they seem scared, they look a little bit more scared. When there's sadness or when there's fear, when there's excitement, you see it a little bit more. And I appreciate that. Because now when you go for that, ideally that should mean it's going to land with the audience a little bit more. I feel like they heard those complaints, they took them into account, they applied them here. Props for that. Getting to some of the issues though I had with this movie. Okay, let's start with the music element, because the music element in this movie was something that I was interested to see how they were going to pull off. They said they would have original songs, characters would be singing, and I'm just going to be honest, I think this is something that I've started to feel with every live action adaptation I've been trying to make. The musical numbers just don't hit as well in these live action adaptations or these remakes. Because in this case, when musical numbers start breaking out and characters start singing, it doesn't feel right. The magic doesn't really hit with me. It just kind of feels cringy. It just doesn't feel like they want to feel realistic. But the problem is, realistic musical sequences, namely with characters like this, it's just not going to work. Not as effectively anyway. In animation, you can get away with so much. You can do a lot more. So in that one, when, you know, a song breaks out, it makes more sense. Here, it just kind of feels out of place. It doesn't hit the way it should. And also, being honest here, the movie took some creative decisions that I didn't necessarily agree with, because they kind of do contradict in a lot of ways what happened in the original Lion King, or what we were told about anyway. Or in this case, Mufasa is an orphan. He runs into this pride that Scar, or at the time known as Taka, was a part of. Taka was meant to be the future king. They brought Mufasa in. They became adopted brothers. Eventually, time went on. They left the life that I guess they were both technically destined for, and that's what led to them becoming what they were. I don't get that. Now, I do understand in some ways they're trying to make it out like, okay, Scar was actually destined to be a king, and that's why he's so resentful towards Mufasa when he is king. That's why he wants the throne, because it's his birthright or something. But I don't know, I guess I would have liked more of the idea that they were brothers, and, you know, it's kind of like a Thor and Loki mold a little bit. Somewhat anyway, like, you know, one was seen as the crown prince, he was destined for the throne, the other just wasn't really cut out for it, and thus there they were, and one developed resentment towards the other. It made more sense to me, and it always felt like, in the original Lion King story, that, you know, Mufasa and Scar were blood brothers. In this case, they weren't. You know, one just stumbled into the other and was taken in. And even still, and again, some of this might work for some of you, and that's totally fine, but the idea that Mufasa, I guess, didn't really come from any lineage of kings, it just feels kind of weird. And I get it, the movie's trying to go for the whole like, oh, a king can come from nothing, you know, you're not born to lead, you seek to lead. And I get all that. But again, there are callbacks with the Lion King that I think of him telling, you know, Simba about the kings and the stars and everything like that, and like, you know, what his father would tell him. But the movie in this origin story never hinted at any of that. And this is the problem with a lot of prequels or a lot of follow-ups to classics. It's like they don't look deeper enough at what made these classic movies so good. It's like there's certain storylines, there's certain areas of characters where development happened, they don't really talk about much. They're not tying up the loose ends a little bit, and when you tie up the loose ends, that's what can go a long way, and I feel like the movie avoided doing that. And yeah, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, like the story of seeing Mufasa and Scar get to where ultimately Pride Rock will be, I just wasn't entertained by it. I'm sure they run into Sarabi, there's like this evil, like, Pride of Lions that's coming after them for, you know, establishment of hierarchy or whatever. But none of it ever sucked me in. None of it was captivating. It's just the biggest problem. I wasn't invested in these characters. I didn't care about the adventure. I mean, the joy of the original Lion King, you're so sucked in on the adventure, you know, what Simba has to go through, how he matures, how he becomes the Lion King one day. By the end, when he did, it felt earned, it felt right, it felt like, you know, yeah, this is what he was meant to do. In this one, you feel like it just happened because, you know, the story said so. I mean, the comedy in this movie also didn't even really hit with me. I mean, they've been doing this whole thing throughout the movie with Timon and Pumbaa where they keep interjecting the story, they keep, you know, trying to give their spin on things, and it's meant to be funny, but the two of them just annoyed me. And that sucks. I mean, Timon and Pumbaa are meant to be funny. Here, I didn't feel it. And again, where the movie really, really lacks is heart. There's nothing in this movie that really ever hit me emotionally to the level that a movie like this should. Like the movie in the beginning, when Mufasa and Scar are cubs, when they're young, they become best friends, they become brothers, they become as close as they could be. And as their relationship begins to deteriorate, it never really felt tragic. And hell, this is 2024. This is the year of movies where you have characters that start out as best friends and then became mortal enemies and saw themselves as brothers in the beginning. So this isn't like a theme that we haven't seen done in 2024 and executed a lot better. Here it just felt like their relationship has to fall apart because in The Lion King, it's already fallen apart. We know what Scar is going to do to Mufasa eventually. There are maybe little nuggets here and there that shows what goes on with Scar, what he truly is as a character, and what Mufasa truly is as a character. But the movie never properly developed it as such. So by the end, when they're at the stage that they are at, it doesn't feel as tragic. It doesn't feel like, you know, it breaks your heart as much as you would maybe hope it would. Doesn't feel like the tragic backstory that could have hit you where you live, and that's disappointing. Yeah, I'll say this much right now, I'm really not a fan of the ending of this movie. Namely, I'm not gonna get into spoiler detail, but namely, like, they show it's like, there's something a character could have done towards another character that would have definitely changed in outcome in The Lion King, and, you know, they just decide, nope, I'm not gonna do this. This character doesn't deserve that. And I'm just like, I mean, the character totally does deserve this. I don't know, it's just the reasoning they provide to not do something, it didn't make a lot of sense, and I don't know, it just felt dumb. And I don't appreciate that they let this character do something so dumb. So all in all, guys, Mufasa the Lion King, it just feels like an unnecessary cash grab from Disney. It looks good animation-wise, like that they let the characters exhibit more personality. Voice acting was good all around, I'll give it that. Everybody I thought showed up, clocked in, voiced the characters well. But yeah, the humor didn't hit with me the way the movie intended it to. The heart in this movie, it's not there. The execution of the storytelling was boring. I was never sucked in. The music in this movie, the musical numbers anyway, did not work for me. And in the end, I do think an origin story for Mufasa could have been interesting, could have been something we all would have been down for, but they did not execute it in a way that worked. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.